I call to order the City of Buellton's Planning Commission for Thursday, March 18th, 2021. Commissioner Sarkia, will you lead us in the pledge?
No,
please?
give somebody else. I always forget the words.
Okay, I'll
I know it's only
help you.
32,
I'll help you. Okay, ready, begin. I pledge
allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Team effort. Roll call, please, Claire.
Commissioner Liggett,
Here.
Commissioner Mercado,
Here.
Commissioner Sarkia,
Here.
Commissioner Blockdyke,
Here.
Chair Hamel.
Here. Reordering of agenda? I don't think so. Presentations? None. Approval of minutes from our last commission meeting of February 18th.
I'll make a motion, Madam Chairman, to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Roll call.
Commissioner Mercado,
Aye.
Vice Chair Blockdyke,
Yes.
Commissioner Liggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarkia,
Yes.
Chair Hamel.
Aye. Public comments. So this is where members of our community can send in an email to us and we'll read it into the record. Anything on the agenda or not on the agenda? Claire, do we have any general public comments tonight?
We have not received any.
Okay. Consent calendar, none. Continued public hearings, none. New public hearings, none. Other business. Item number 2, and this is the preliminary review of Buellton Garden Apartments 21-FDP-01 and TPM 31063, 10 McMurray Road, APN 137-200-087 and 137-200-094. Ms. Kara, please lead us.
Hey, so good evening, Chair Hamel and members of the Planning Commission. We have a PowerPoint here that Claire can pull up. Give her a second to do that, but
Is it there?
no, I'm not seeing anything.
Shoot. Okay, keep talking then.
So this is a preliminary review of the Buellton Garden Apartments project. The developer and the project architect are joining us tonight. Greg Ravat and Cordelia Raymond are from Ravat, Albrecht and Associates, and then Morgan Benevito and Kevin Wilson are from People's Self-Help Housing, which is the developer. So this is the first submittal of the project, and as such, not all of the necessary items are required for a complete application have been submitted. So an incomplete letter is being sent to the applicant tomorrow, a draft of which was provided in the staff report, in order to ask for all the missing information to complete the project application so that a review for consistency with the city standards can be completed. Once that consistency determination has been made and then all the environmental review is complete, the project can then be brought forward to public hearing for a decision by the commission with all the necessary data that is needed to make an informed decision. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to solicit input from the Planning Commission on the proposed project, including the site design, architecture, project description, and any other aspect, and also any additional information that may be needed to assist staff in determining consistency with our standards. You can go to the next slide. So the proposed project is located on vacant land at the south end of McMurray Road. It's behind Albertsons. The proposed parcel with the proposed development marked with the star is 3.06 acres. And the parcel just south of that, the 7.3 acre parcel is also included in the project site, but it's not proposed with any development at this time. The Santa Ynez River runs to the south, as you can see on the map, which requires a 200-foot setback from the top of bank to any building structures. And most of this lower parcel is located within that 200-foot setback, or all of it, I should say. So then to the west here, we have Highway 101. The project site can be seen from coming northbound on the 101. The parcel to the east contains a single family residence. And then the parcel further to the east, you can just see in the right corner there, is entitled with the Waypoint project. So the two parcels that make up the project site here form a portion of AHA's Site 9. That's our affordable housing overlay zone. And the Waypoint parcel and the parcel with the single family residence are also included within that large AHA's site. But right now, the only parcel that can be developed residentially under the AHA's ordinance is the parcel proposed for development tonight. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so the proposed project would consist of a final development plan for the construction of a 92-unit apartment complex, and also a tentative parcel map in order to split the 3-acre parcel into two to accommodate the development of the two 3-story buildings into 2 separate phases. There's 8 1-bedroom units, 57 2-bedroom units, and then 27 3-bedroom units, which include a manager's unit proposed between the 2 buildings. And then, as mentioned, it's in the AHA's, it's an AHA, part of an AHA's site. So the AHA's ordinance requires 25 units per net buildable area, and that 20% of the units are affordable. So this project proposes 30 units per acre and 100% affordable units. And the architectural style is agrarian. And then the project would also include 2 courtyards, play areas, pedestrian paths throughout, some private patios and balconies, a 5,000 square foot community room, and a learning center and computer lab for the residents, and then offices for service providers. So just lastly, I want to mention that the project is being submitted under Senate Bill 330. A preliminary application, which this law created the process for, was submitted in December of last year, and that locked in the standards and fees that could be applied to the project at the time that the preliminary application was submitted. So this act also prohibits the denial of an affordable housing project such as this, or conditioning of such a development in a way that would render the project infeasible or would reduce the proposed density unless certain findings can be made. So that is going to be discussed at length later in the throughout the approval process and in the public hearing. But just to note, we sent a memo to from the planning director on Tuesday, giving a little bit more information about SB 330 and the planning commission's role when reviewing and approving those projects. Then the density, sorry about that here. The density bonus law is also being invoked. And I'll go into it a little bit more here just up front so that going through the site plan, we can see how it relates. But the city must grant up to 4 incentives or concessions for 100% affordable projects such as this one, if requested by the applicant. So the applicant can also request waivers and reductions of development standards. And then parking can be reduced as well under the state density bonus law. So it's preliminarily discussed here, but again, we'll be going into it a little bit more in throughout the review for city consistency with city standards and the approval process. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so here's the overall site plan for the upper parcel. You can see the 2 buildings here, all the parking and circulation shown. For the access, it's 2 driveways along McMurray Road on the left-hand side there. And then the driveway at the southeast corner, I just want to note, it does dead end. It doesn't continue. It's that single family residence that's adjacent. The applicant and the fire department have discussed a lot of the emergency access concerns, and the applicant has said that they've worked around those concerns to get this site plan and address some of those concerns with access and emergency services. So the fire department conditions of approval will be provided at the public hearing. They have not provided any comments at this time. Pedestrian paths are provided throughout the site, along with a new sidewalk on McMurray. And parking, so the required parking spaces for under the Buellton Municipal Code would be 209 off-street spaces just for the residential use. And not included in the parking count are staff offices, which would add an additional 3. But either way, the total parking spaces that we can require under the state density bonus law is 135. So the applicant is proposing to provide 148, and this includes 6 accessible spaces and 15 clean air or electric vehicle spaces. With the remaining spaces are all standard spaces. There's no compact spaces proposed. As far as bicycle parking, there are 3 racks provided with 15 spaces total. And then moving on to setbacks, initially it appears that the rear setback may not be consistent with the setback standard, but more clarification is needed, and that's asked for in the incomplete letter. As far as the 200-foot setback from top of bank from the Santa Ynez River, it appears that all the buildings are outside of this setback, so there's no concerns there. Landscaping, conceptual landscaping plan has been provided in the plan set, but I'll just talk about it here with the site plan. So 17.3% of the project site is landscaped. The CR zone only requires 5% to be landscaped. A little bit more clarification is needed on the fencing and the screening proposed around the property. But the applicant is requesting a density bonus concession on some of the parking landscaping standards. This includes some of the required screening around the parking areas in the form of a 5-foot wide landscape strip. And you can see on the site plan, a lot of the parking areas don't have the 5-foot strip there. And then also concession for the parking islands is requested. The required parking islands in order to break up the parking area. So you don't see a lot of those in here. Next, dedicated trail easement and possible connection from the project site to the trail easement area may be required for the Santa Ynez River Trail on the lower parcel, which is not shown here. So staff is reviewing or will be reviewing the project for the city, for city standards for this trail requirement, but it is not shown here. Lastly, lighting plans and photometric plan have been provided also throughout with the plan set, but I'll talk about it here. Although lighting is downlit and hooded, most of it's rated around 3,000 to 4,000 Kelvin. The parking lot lights are 17 feet tall. So initially the lights appeared to be mostly consistent with city standards. And you can go to the next slide. Okay, so here is the tentative parcel map. I know there's a lot on there, but the parcel to the left-hand side would be proposed parcel 1. You can see the vertical line kind of sloping breaks up the two. And there's a parcel proposed to the right-hand side. So the slides next, we'll kind of show this in more, hopefully be more clear. So this is the first parcel, and this is phase 1. So this includes building A with the community center, the learning center, and computer lab, all the staff offices. The courtyard in this is an interior courtyard that has a half basketball court and also has a play area there. And then in the black, you can see the pedestrian paths throughout. And most of the parking spaces are going to be, would be constructed in this phase, in the first phase. Then you can go to the next slide. Okay, so this here is the second parcel, the phase 2. So this is just building B, which would have the courtyard as well. No play area or anything besides a lawn is proposed for this at this time. The mailboxes are in the courtyard, but this courtyard also acts as a fire lane. And as you can kind of see in this, in there, yeah, the fire lane throughout the courtyard there. And that's the phases. You can go to the next slide. So these are the elevations of building A. The height is mostly, the majority of the height is at 33.5 feet, but some of the roof pitches are higher at 44.5 feet. The height increase is also being requested under a section of the state density bonus law. Eligibility for this increase is being reviewed. A little more information was given in the staff report about that. If the project is not eligible for this certain height increase under the density bonus law, one option the applicant may choose is to request an increase as a concession under that same law. So the architectural style I mentioned is agrarian. It has stucco, cement board siding, board and bat, and stone wainscot at the bottom ground floor there. Patios are provided on all of the ground floor units, and then a very limited amount of balconies are provided on the second and third floors. So staff is reaching out to DMHA to conduct an architectural review of the project to ensure consistency with all our community design guidelines. And you can go to the next slide. Okay, so these are renderings that were provided in the plan set of building A. You can just see up at the top left there, the interior courtyard. And then over is a view from McMurray. The bottom left there is a view looking north, kind of from the river. And then the last is another view from McMurray. Next slide. Okay, so here are the elevations for building B. And these all, again, are the roof line is mostly at 33.5 feet, with some of the roof pitches being at 44.5 feet. And then you can go to the next slide. And these are the renderings for building B. So you can see the courtyard, the mailboxes, some of the buildings from the back of the building that were provided in the plan set. Great. Next slide. Okay, so staff has provided, again, a draft of incomplete items that will be provided in an incomplete letter to the applicant tomorrow. This letter includes all the items on the city's final development plan and tentative parcel map checklists that are missing, incomplete, or maybe need a little bit more clarification or information on. And that's in order to have a complete application from which to review against the city standards. So for tonight, the Planning Commission should provide any comments or direction to the applicant and staff on the proposed plans. It could be in regards to the project description, the site plan, architecture, and any other aspects which may lend itself to staff's thorough review of the project for consistency with those standards. So at this time, the applicant has a video that we'd like to share. And then after the video, the staff and then the applicant and developer are available to answer any questions from the commission. Andrea, I think, is going to play that video.
Moment here. I know that it was having a little bit trouble loading earlier, so it might be a little bit slow to come through, but.
This is Cordelia. May I speak and describe as we're going through the video?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so the video is lagging a little bit. We had it go a little bit faster, but as it's moving here, we're looking at the building A moving around the south, going towards the south on McMurray here. This would be our south driveway into the property. And we have the trash enclosure here. Pausing in our view, it shouldn't be that prominent there. But anyway, imagine that we're driving in a car going from the street on McMurray into the south parking lot here.
Yeah, it is lagging quite a bit, but.
Okay, and so here we'll be coming into the view of the courtyard. Yeah, we had the video under a minute, so we were trying to keep it short for you guys. So we're coming into the view of the courtyard of building A, so phase 1. And again, going from like north to south here, moving. And then we'll move into the courtyard, which will show a little bit more of the barbecue and seating area that we have planned, as well as the basketball court and then the children's playground in the background, in the far back near the building there. And the facade that we're looking at on the right side of the screen, it would be the back of the community center that is intended for the residents. And then as you turn, you can see the relationship that building A's courtyard has to building B, which we see the corner of building B there on the right. All right, so here is building B. We just crossed the street that splits the property. We're looking at that courtyard. Again, this courtyard doubles as our fire access lane, as well as another seating and barbecue area for the residents for building B. Again, I apologize for the video being so slow. The video here is just going to walk us along the sidewalk that is at the north part of the south parking area. So the parking that's along the south property line, we're walking along that sidewalk there and just looking at the building and how it relates to the courtyard and fire access road. And what we hope to see is the vision for the project. And so each building has a separate bike area and mailbox area. So that's what we're crawling past here. And we did kind of run these locations by the mailbox areas by the postmaster. And at preliminary glance, I was given a verbal okay, but of course, no formal approval or anything. And then we're just continuing here towards the far end of building B. And this building is all residential units with one space that is going to be dedicated for maintenance staff to have maintenance equipment for the property. So each building has its own maintenance room space. And in this particular case, we can't see it from this view. It's actually on the other side. And this is just one final look at building B, just from the opposite side, looking back into the courtyard from the far south corner of the property. Just a little bit longer here. We're gonna wrap you around the back to building A. So if you're coming through the center circulation that we have going north on the property, then this is what we're looking at. This is where the community room is behind that tree. Here we go. We're moving again. So we're looking at the community center here on the ground floor with a 2-story volume. And then there are some units on the 3rd floor up there with some Juliet balconies. And then if we don't want to sit through the rest of however long this is going to take, it was just going to wrap us around back to the beginning of where we started the video with the view of the project from McMurray.
Okay, should we start questions?
Yeah, yes, I am here. Andrea is here. Morgan and Kevin and Cordelia and Greg are all here to answer questions.
And thank you for the video, even though it was slow. I appreciated that. That's a nice different view for the 3D view. Questions, Commissioner Mercado, do you want to start us off?
I know in the application that they had, they're using the bus stop for at Albertsons, and in that type of facility, being that it's, you're just assuming that they're all going to shop at Albertsons. So I would think having a dedicated bus stop on the property would be a little bit better. And I guess most of my are not just questions. I just have a lot more things that I was just kind of.
You can go ahead and give us
I
your
was just disappointed to see not more landscaping, and then not a dedicated playground area in B, because the other one is relatively small, and they're assuming just that the big grassy area would be sufficient for families. And so I just have some issues with that, and traffic, and I know those will be addressed by staff when the EIR and some other things like that come up on board. The building on B was kind of blah, and I just think it needs to be broken up a little bit more, just something. And like I said, I'm big on trees. I think, and I know they're requesting some incentives and reduction of landscaping, but I think that would be a big problem. So those are my issues and conditions.
Okay. Commissioner Liggett, do you want to go next?
Yes, hi. Thanks for your presentation, Cara, and the video. Yeah, I have a number of comments, some similar to what Commissioner Mercado said. The landscape, I'm also concerned. Just because you can reduce it doesn't mean necessarily that you have to or you should. Big exposed parking areas radiates a lot of heat, heats up the cars. It gets quite hot here in the summer, extremely hot. So I think having some sort of trees or vegetation in the parking would be valuable. I noticed that there's not a vegetative strip on the south side of the parking that buffers the natural area along the creek. That creek is a really valuable asset of Buellton. It should be protected, and our vision, eventually it's going to be a trail system that connects, all these towns. I think having some sort of buffer there that protects the natural wildlife from the parking lot, so it doesn't butt up right against, might be wise. Even if it's just a 5-foot wide planter, that way you're not encroaching on this natural habitat, which is a very valuable corridor for the wildlife. More with the parking. There's no overflow parking in the area. So having low numbers of parking spaces, while it is permitted, there is no overflow areas. You can't park in the parking lot of the Albertsons. I don't think so. I can't imagine. So while other locations, you might be able to use overflow parking on the streets, this particular location doesn't. So I think parking could be very problematic for the residences that live there. Bike parking, 15 spaces total. If you're trying to encourage people to use alternative transportation, I think you might consider it more bike prep parking. I think those will get used up pretty quickly. Landscape is a question for you right now. Is that artificial turf or is that real turf?
If we wanted to give the applicant an opportunity to answer, I don't know if who
Yeah.
wants.
Yeah, okay, if that's okay,
Yeah.
because it leads into another comment.
I will defer to Chair Hamel on.
Yeah, why don't the owner or the applicant, if you want to step in and comment as we comment, feel free.
I really appreciate it. My name is Morgan. I've been a video with People Self-Help Housing. As Kara mentioned, Kevin, our project managers here, and Greg and Cordelia, who I believe you know, are the architects on the project. So if you want to do this as a conversation, that's perfectly fine with us. We are, I guess I didn't get a chance to kind of tell you why we're here, which we're excited to be here. People Self-Help Housing has been around for, it's our 51st year. And we started off doing self-help housing where people literally build their own housing. We call it sweat equity. And we've done a number of those throughout San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. And also now we're working a little bit in Monterey County. And now we have nearly 2,000 rental units of all affordable, including 52 properties on the Central Coast and not one in Buellton. And it's really bothered us all these years because we've always wanted to do a project in Buellton. And this site, being an AHAS site, made a lot of sense. We've looked at other sites in there. It's a small town, so it's not a lot of properties that become available, obviously. So we have to, take our chances when we can. But so for us, this is kind of it's a kind of a new day, even though we've been around for as long as we have, never in Buellton. And so we're excited to kind of introduce us, what we do to the Planning Commission, city staff, and the whole community. All these properties that we build, we are the developer, we're the general contractor, we are the property manager, and we also provide what we call resident services to all the staff. That could be social worker assistance to our residents. We often put after school programs, education programs on the sites. That's why you see a kind of robust community center. So it's a full service A to Z operation that we run, and we keep all the sites that we run. So we're not a fly by night developer. You know who we are. We know all of the staffs that we work with up and down the coast. And so if there's a question or issue, there's a phone number to call and a person who will pick it up. So that being said, to go to the question, I think the question was on artificial turf. Typically what we call the tot lot, the children's play area, will be artificial turf. And that's mainly for low water use and also safety. We can put padding underneath it in case there's for a fall zone. And then the decision to put artificial turf or not on a different larger play area like that large one in building B. Now, I don't think we've made that decision yet. There's the give and take of high water use, but it's a softer surface versus artificial turf, low water use, but they're very costly to install. Being a fire access road there, it's going to have to be some sort of special underlayment underneath the grass to begin with, just to allow a truck to drive over it. So it might have to be natural grass because it will have it's almost like a hexagon or a honeycomb shape subsurface you put down, and then you can grow vegetation through it, but it'll stabilize enough to allow a truck to drive over it. And so that's our thought on that area. And so that's sort of how we would approach the two surfaces.
Do you want to go ahead and address some of the other concerns before we move on with more questions? Like there was some concern about not enough landscaping throughout the project due to the heat. And I should add, it's very windy here too. We might need some more trees for some wind breaks.
Sure. We'll look at, we'll take all these comments in and we'll look at what we can do to address the comments to the best of our ability. I think one of the comments was on the San Ynez River area. That's part of our, we have two parcels. One of them is that 7 acres that goes actually into the riverbed. Our thought was to maintain a view for the residents. It's sort of an amenity, having a unit that overlooks the river and that mountain range across the river. And so that's one thought that we had. We could probably, do other things to discourage people from traipsing around down there. I know this can be possibly a trail going through. So I think somebody's walking through there eventually, and we'd probably want our residents to access that trail if that's the case. So we can look at different options. I think we can find a balancing act between preserving a view and also protecting the river there. And as far as the landscape goes in the parking lot, I think one comment was, gee, I don't know if there's enough parking. We take out landscape fingers within the parking lot and you gain more parking spaces. If you put them back in, you could lose parking spaces. So it's sort of a trade-off there. Do you want the parking or do you want the trees? What we should do is probably look around the perimeter of the property to see if we can add some trees that way. And, it's a preliminary landscape plan, so we haven't really dialed in every tree where it's going to go, but we'll look at that. Maybe we can do some perimeter landscaping that doesn't affect the parking, so we keep the parking count, but maybe get a few more trees. That's one option to look at.
Okay. Commissioner Liggett, did you want to continue?
Yes. And sorry to kind of disrupt the flow of comments to questions.
Oh, I'm sorry because I didn't introduce the owner and the applicant and everyone. So
yes, yeah, thank you. I guess I could have been more specific. In the plans for the water use calculations, you're counting it as artificial turf. You designate it as a special landscape, so it's designated as artificial turf. So yeah, if it is real turf, those calculations would change quite drastically.
Okay, well, we'll just.
So I was just trying to clarify, but
yeah, if that's what it says,
so
that's what it is.
Obviously, okay. So just to kind of move on, pedestrian access to the river, I think that is a good thing. There's a trail system there. I don't think discouraging people from using it is the right thing to do. But having some buffer between a parking lot and it, I think there's opportunity there. The buildings, there's no elevators, and that really bugs me. That's insensitive for those who live on the second and third floor. If they have family members that maybe can't visit them because of that, if one of them becomes permanently or temporary, lose the ability to climb stairs or at all. Do they have to move? I don't know. So I think elevators are extremely important to be inclusive to everybody, to have all access to every floor. And maybe I'm getting nitty gritty here, but that's my observation that kind of hit me. Looking at the floor plans, I'm not sure how trash goes from the units down to the dumpsters. I don't know if you're going to have some sort of process there. Again, this is preliminary, so I don't know if it's been thought of that much in detail, but having some sort of mechanism to get trash from upstairs, downstairs. And those were my biggest comments. You kind of hit on, the proximity to the setting up views for the residents. Views are great. There's also views of the river to the bank, and having a 44-foot tall building in places, you want to preserve views, but also, not obstruct views or bring in invasive views. So that's something to keep in mind as this goes forward. So those are my observations and comments for this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Morgan, did you have anything else to add, or should we move on?
No, we'll take a look at those comments and see how we can accommodate.
Okay. Commissioner Sarkia. Question.
Hello. Let's see, am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Good.
You're good.
All right. Yeah, I like how the buildings are at different angles. They're not just kind of like blocks set up there. And I would like to see more trees, but not, I like how that soccer area is laid out for the kids to just have an open area to play in. So I wouldn't want to see trees in the middle of that. As far as access to the river from the parking lot, I would feel comfortable with it being gated so that animals and whatnot aren't going to come from the river into the area. Skunks just love our neighborhoods, so you really want to keep them out. And that's pretty much all I have.
Okay. Vice Chair Blockdyke.
It was great hearing the comments from Art and Aaron. Very insightful. Loved most of it. I do agree that we need more trees along the southern border, which faces the river. I know it's at the expense of some views, but I think it would make a great transition, a great place to put coastal live oaks, which is our native tree around here, and also shade the parking lot at the same time. And it's not going to take much water at all. Now, I'm not talking about putting parking islands. I'm just talking about the southern perimeter, just trying to put it on the outside. So, and it's also going to be a little bit of a buffer from, the side of the buildings from the highway, perhaps a little bit. You wouldn't see so much of the bottom, but more of the top, and you'd be shading the parking lot tremendously. So that's one of my main observations. The large lawn area at building, I think it's building A, the big area. I'm fine with that. I don't really like the idea of using artificial sod for that area. It's very hot. It contributes to the heat island. It's not comfortable for kids to play on. Much better off with a little bit of grass. And honestly, for 90 plus units of living space, that's hardly any lawn at all. It's negligible. So, there's a couple other things too. Some of the trees that your landscape architect picked will not grow here. They will die. So I think we need to relook at those trees because you're just throwing money away. You want me to mention the trees?
No. What we'll do is, if you have them, you can mention them. I don't know, Cordelia, are you able to write these down? We can check and ask why he chose those.
Well, the Melaleuca tree, though it does grow in parts of Buellton, probably won't grow by the river. Now, the river is going to be your coldest area in Buellton. So just that few degrees more is going to cause them to be ugly 90% of the time. The other one, the gold medallion tree, that one won't grow there. It'll die.
Okay.
Maybe the first year or the second year, but it'll be gone. Art, do you concur?
I agree. Like I said, like Aaron and Bob said, trees for shade. It blocks some of the view from the freeway, but just adds a more tranquil type atmosphere. I was really concerned just because looking long term, the height and the number of units in that small little area, and if you're looking to have more families, just like I said, having that small little area in the middle of B for that little courtyard with just about half basketball court and that little play area, and then not having anything. And I know, I guess what I'm getting at is because building B is going to be on the second phase. Are you looking at a year, 2 years, or what are you looking at?
It'll be more than that. The reason for phasing is there's two reasons for it. One is when you build affordable housing, we use different financing sources than would a market rate development use. And it's a combination of public and private sources, and it's competitive, and it's more complex than I like, but it's just the way we have to do it. And so the amount of funding available to fund a project like this and the programs that we're looking at kind of necessitates breaking into two smaller chunks, bite-sized pieces. And the second reason is Buellton, we're not sure if it can absorb 90 units at one time is affordable. And so we want to phase this in slowly do 45 once and 45 another time over a course of years. So our typical timeframe for a project is 3 to 5 years, and really it's the uncertainty is based on funding. It's competitive funding. We apply. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. And so once phase one is completed, I'd imagine a couple years later, 2 to 3 years later, perhaps we'd be ready for phase two. So that's probably the gap between the two, roughly speaking.
Right. Okay. So that's
I'm going to interject a question here while we're on that subject. So while A is being built and occupied, what will building B be? Is it going to be a dirt lot?
It will be, it's native state, I guess you would call it.
Okay.
So the
It'll be a
intent,
motocross track.
motocross track, yeah.
Right.
The intent is that the financing source, what we do is I don't want to get too much in the weeds in this, but we get what we call low-income housing tax credits, and we
Right.
sell those tax credits to an investor. They put their money in. It's typically one of the large banks, and we have to form a partnership with them. And so phase one will be what we call a limited partnership with us and that investor that lasts for 15 years. Now they will leave after 15 years and we will keep the property beyond that. And so phase two will be a separate legal entity. As far as the outside public goes, it's going to walk and talk as one project. Nobody will know the difference. It's just on paper, you'll have two lots that have two quote unquote separate owners. One of them would be Buellton Garden Apartments 1, and the other one will be Buellton Garden Apartments 2. So that's the only reason for breaking it up. It's not because we enjoy the headaches of going through a lot split and doing it twice. It's more just because of the financing that's involved in the project.
Okay. Great. Okay. So either back to Art or probably Bob.
I don't have anything else to add at this time. I'm pretty happy with the project. I added what I said about the trees and the ones that won't work, and that's about it. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Okay. So I'm going to first of all pay compliments. I like the overall design of the project. You could have easily put in a big square or rectangular concrete block. So I like the agrarian design, of course, because it complies with our codes and that kind of thing. But I like just all the detail, the different roof lines, how the facades are, kind of, this one comes out in front and this one comes out, and you got a little stair step there, and the building materials too. I like that, those little, I guess they're maybe 3-foot kind of a rock design against the walls. So anyway, overall, I like the design of everything. Let's see, kind of questions, concerns, was what I actually drove around the project, or the property line, yesterday afternoon, evening. Are you giving any consideration when we're talking about those, kind of the walls or the landscaping walls on the north side of the property, which would butt up against the Albertsons? I'm wondering if you're giving any consideration to the possible noise issue for the tenants with Albertsons, like truck noise. When do the deliveries come in, in the middle of the night, 3 a.m.? Do you have a bunch of idling back there, refrigeration trucks making a lot of noise? So I think we need to kind of look at that to see if we can, I guess, screen out a little bit of the noise. And I think that's going to come forward in one of the studies that are going with this. Kara or Andrea, are we doing some kind of a noise study as part of this project?
We will be, as part of the initial study for the project, conducting.
Okay, great. Let's see. I knew I could count on 3 of you to talk about trees and green and landscaping, so I'm glad you all took care of that for me. One of my big concerns too, and I think 2 others brought this up, is the parking, because obviously we we know, this, you're going to be seeking a parking concession. So my concern is this is just a really unusual street, McMurray, how it dead ends there. And there's just really, we have to consider parking. I mean, even though you're going to get a concession to have less than your average parking spaces per unit, where's the overflow going? I think Aaron asked the question, they're not going to be able to park at Albertsons, and that street is really, maybe a block or a block and a half long. So you're really not going to get a lot of overflow parking out there. So I don't know how we address that, but something to consider. Let's see. I think that's pretty much that. I think that's it. Everybody's pretty much on the same page. And we understand, this is a preliminary review. We're also restricted by how many meetings we can have on this. So we're trying to throw it all out at you.
No, we appreciate the comments. Just a note on parking, we manage over 50 sites, and we're very mindful of parking as well. We don't want to create a problem for ourselves or our neighbors.
Right.
So we want to appropriately park. We could say zero parking as a density bonus concession, and we would never do that. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So we parked it where we thought was probably right on based on our experience. We'll take a look and double check that to make sure we're dialing it in. I asked Kevin before this meeting about the bike parking. I asked him to talk to our property management about that. That's kind of an easy thing we can add if we have to. It's really jurisdiction specific. Some towns are more bike oriented than others. Some properties, it just really depends on the location. And so I just want to remind the commission, it's a 100% affordable project, and our residents come in at 30% of the area median income to 60% of the area median income. And so there's quite a number that might have a vehicle, but there might not be two vehicle families, especially at those extremely low income levels. And so, we often find that if we do a grandiose parking lot and we end up with a lot of empty parking spaces, and so it's a bit of waste of resources to over park an affordable housing project when you could do something different with it. And so we're always we want to park it right. We want to get it correct. And so that I guess that's my pledge to the commission is we're coming in trying to park it correctly. We're not trying to pull one over on Buellton and not appropriately park it.
Okay, great. With that, have we provided enough guidance, Andrea? Do you want to help me wrap
Madam
up?
Chairman,
Yeah, go
can I
ahead.
ask another question?
Sure.
Morgan, in your history and going through the 50 properties, have not so much that you pushed mass transit or the bus transit, do you see that use of that type of transportation used by your projects? And that was the reason why I was asking, if you're having to walk if most of these people have transit access, would you be able to, or do you see that mass transit is being used at your other projects?
It depends on the location. So I'll give two examples. I I live in the Santa Maria area. I'm working now, but I live in Santa Maria. Santa Maria is a car town, and when we do a project in Santa Maria, some people are going to ride the bus system, but we always try to, I overparked a senior project in Santa Maria because there was not an opportunity for much street parking, and I knew that people would visit their grandparents and whatnot, and so we knew that had to be done there. Conversely, in Santa Barbara, we did a project a few years ago, right on a bike lane, a bus stop across the street. It was one parking space per unit plus a few guests. And so we were relying on that transit system. But Santa Barbara has MTD, which is a pretty robust transit system. And so we knew that, that's a system you can kind of rely on to not only get around Santa Barbara, but Goleta and Carpinteria as well, and Isla Vista. And so we can lean on that system a little bit more. In Buellton, you have a bus system. It's probably something people might rely on a little bit, but I probably would lean towards more people wanting vehicles in Buellton. just based on, if they work in Lompoc, for example, or San Ynez, down in Solvang area, might need a car to get there. But we can look at that, and we'll definitely want to encourage people to do that, and making it convenient for them is one way to do so. But I don't know that I would make this a 1-to-1 parking ratio in Buellton. We could probably increase bike parking to encourage people to get on a bike. The shopping center is right next door. They might just ride a bike to a store rather than taking their car.
Well, I was more sure about, because of like you said, the lower income, those people would be able to commute. But we do have a transit that we subsidize to go to Lompoc. We also have the one that goes through the rest of the town. So they do have opportunities to go to Solvang, San Ynez, Los Olivos by the bus. So just with that in mind, and especially if you're doing only one phase at a time, having a dedicated bus stop in the first phase, that way, maybe by the second phase, more people, okay, hey, bus stop's right here. I can go 2 minutes, catch the bus, and I'm going to Lompoc. I'm going to Los Olivos. I can go to Santa Maria. Just something to consider. And because of the first or second phase, are you concerned with the fire and safety, because that is your access road for Building B? Having that 3 or 4 years down the road, how are you going to manage that one?
Oh, we talked to fire, and the reason is just a bit of an odd shape and layout is because the fire truck can come and make a loop all the way around the building in phase 1. So that parking lot will exist in phase 1. Fire truck can enter one way and go out the other way and have 360 access around the building. And then when Building B, phase 2 is built, we have that little strip going through the lawn area where they can pull up next to the building if they have to. So that was all done with fire department in mind. We did approach the shopping center and said, hey, could we get an emergency only access easement through your property? They said, go away. So we ended up with this shape and layout that you see here. Another alternative on bus, alternative of transportation is simply good marketing sometimes work. When we did that senior project in Santa Maria, the senior transportation agent wanted to come on site after the project was built and kind of do a meeting with the residents and explain their services. Sometimes just awareness in advertising helps people realize the bus system is there and they should use it. So we could kind of program that in too, just to remind people to use the bus system.
Because hopefully that'll help alleviate some of the traffic issues, being that little bottleneck there and so forth. So great, thank you.
Commissioners.
I wanted to add, keep in mind the school bus access as well as the public transportation bus access. And those are pretty much the large buses. Make sure they can get in and out of there. So if you do have a bus stop there, then it should be able to accommodate the larger buses.
Good point. We'll look at that.
Okay.
It would also be nice eventually, of course, we're talking about connectivity with the river trail, and that might be a way to get people to be able to walk to the park and ride that's on Avenue of the Flags, right next to the river. That's very close to it. I mean, that's not a very far walk. And They have the air bus that stops there and many other buses. So
okay.
I don't know, what that is in the future, but that could be nice.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, I'll let Kara and Andrea kind of help me wrap it up.
Kara, do you want to go ahead, or okay, there you go. Saw you on mute.
Oh, to wrap it up, actually, Andrea, I'm not sure how to wrap it up other than just
say that I think at this point, that's I think the purpose of this meeting was to gather comments from the commission, and I think we received those. So I would just like to, thank the applicant for coming. And I think at this point, we are ready to move on to the next item on the agenda.
Okay. And I do also want to thank the applicant and the owner and all the parties involved in the video presentation. And we look forward to working with you because this is the first kind of project here in Buellton like this under all these new laws and guidelines. So we look forward to it. Thank you.
We appreciate it. We appreciate the time of the commission. Like I said, we're excited to be here because we've been your neighbors for so long, but we want to work with you. And so we get a chance to do that. And we look forward to the next step.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, on to written communications. I don't believe there are any. Planning commissioner comments. Planning commissioners, do you have any reports, comments?
Good.
And I'm not going to step on Andrea's toes tonight and lead into anything. So I don't have anything either. So I'll turn it over to Andrea, planning director reports.
All right, just a couple things tonight. Just as a reminder, in case anybody on the commission is still interested in attending, the Planning Commissioners Academy is going to be virtual this year, and it is going to be March 25th, 26th, and then there's a little break, and then it starts back up again on the 31st of March and the 1st of April. Like I said, it is all virtual. If you do sign up, if you can't attend live, they're pre-recorded, so you can go back and view them for a certain period of time, I believe. So just as a note, contact me if you're still interested. That's, I guess, coming up here next week. So, or, in a week or so, and then following into the following week. So just contact me in the planning department if you are interested in attending that. Secondly, I just wanted to mention that the EIR scoping meeting for the land use and circulation element update will be on March 31st, which is a Wednesday at 6 p.m. So this is a community meeting. Community members are invited to attend. And the meeting will be primarily run by our consultants on the project, Rincon Consultants, as they are the consultants that will be preparing the environmental document. And so they'll give a short presentation, and the purpose is to obtain input from the community on issues or items that they believe should be addressed in the environmental document for the land.
Okay.
What was the date on that?
That's March 31st, which is a Wednesday.
So that's an open to the public. Is that what you said? Or
yes, it's a community meeting. So if the public to attend, so they would just need to contact the planning department, and we can get them on our list of attendees to then, because it will be a virtual Zoom like this here meeting. So there's also, I would just note, we have.
But are we invited?
You are sent the invite, and if you'd like to attend, yes, it's open to anybody in the community that would like to attend. So
okay.
So yeah, so we'll have that. And again, what I was also going to mention here is that there's a video that we've posted on the planning department page on the city website. And that video, basically, if anybody is interested in hearing about what the EIR scoping meeting is about, but they cannot attend the community meeting on the 31st, they can actually view the video presentation that is on the website. And if they'd like to provide their comments upon viewing that, separate from the live meeting on the 31st, they can do that. So that's all I have tonight.
Okay. And no other comments. So we will adjourn the meeting at 7:10 p.m. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.